Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the new, improved Bridging the Geekdoms, where things are going to be moving a lot differently here now than they have in the past. We got some really cool things lined up, and we got a live show coming up where it's going to be kind of like an awards show where we're going to give awards away for the movies and television shows and video games of last year. I'm looking forward to that, so stay tuned for when that drops. But today, I want to talk about what my most anticipated movies are in the upcoming year. There's a lot that is coming out, and whether it's comic book, Marvel, DC, or ongoing properties like Mission Impossible or Indiana Jones, there's so much that I can't wait to see. So I decided to put together a list of my top 10 that I cannot wait to check out. Now, with everything, this is a list of my personal choices. It's not going to match what you're excited to see, obviously. With that in mind, I absolutely want to hear what you're excited for as well down in the comments, so make sure you throw down in the comments what movies you're looking forward to. Do you think that what I chose is idiotic and dumb? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear all of that. Let's get into it now. I had a little trouble here picking 10. 10 is really difficult this coming year. So I do have three honorable mentions that I'm going to talk about quickly here. And the first one is Wonka. That is going to have Timothée Chalamet and the titular role of Willy Wonka. This is sort of a prequel to that story, whether it's, you want to call it Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, what have you. This is a prequel of sorts, and I'm really interested to see what this movie's going to be. It just, unfortunately, couldn't crack my top 10 that I'm anticipating. The next one is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Look, I really enjoyed the last Ant-Man, probably more than a lot of people did. The first one was not for me. This movie, yeah, I'm excited to see what it brings, and the way that they're talking about how this is like an Avengers level type of film as opposed to the palate cleanser the first two were. Yeah, that's exciting and all, but it's more about showing us that than telling us that. So I'm optimistic about this film, but my excitement isn't as high as others. And my final honorable mention is going to be Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I absolutely loved the first Shazam. I thought it was a fantastic film, and until I started putting this list of movies together, this I thought was going to easily be in my top 5, let alone top 10. So I was like, yeah, that's absolutely going to be in there. Then I put this list together, and the movies just kept growing and growing and growing, and then I had to just narrow it down, and this one just fell out. Honestly, you remove any movie out of that top 10, if for some reason it does not come out in 2023, this movie easily falls into number 10. So yeah, those are my 3 honorable mentions. Let's get into number 10 here, though. Number 10 is a movie that I have to say it's unexpected that we're getting a third in this series. The first one, when it came out, I was very pessimistic about. When I heard about it, I was like, really? Why would they do that? That sounds terrible. And I'm talking about the Creed films. Creed 3 comes out this year, and the first 2, while the second one was not quite as good as the first one, it was still absolutely enjoyable. I'm not crazy about the behind the scenes stuff that happened with Sly Stallone, because these are his characters, and I understand that he sold them to the studio, and I understand that he doesn't have control of those characters any longer, but while he is alive, he should be involved in some capacity. But that's my number 10. Number 9, number 9. You asked me a year ago, this movie is probably top 3, top 5 for me, easy. But as time has gone on, and we're now seeing the movies that are coming out this year, and who it has to go up against, it's hard to put this any higher than number 9, and quite possibly this could fall out of the top 10 if a movie that I wasn't aware of coming out, or 2 movies coming out that I wasn't aware of. But that movie is The Flash. There is so much to be excited for with this movie, but there's also a lot to be worried about. The shenanigans with Ezra Miller that happened over the last couple years have absolutely worried people to the extent that they don't even want to see this film. You then have what's going on at DC right now with the newly formed DC Studios. What does this movie even have to bring to the table for a rebooted or semi-rebooted franchise? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But I got to say, look, everything that I've heard about this film, I have to say it sounds absolutely bonkers and crazy and good. But I'm worried most of all about the reception of this because of what James Gunn and Peter Safran are now doing with DC Films. Next up, at number 8, this film, I mean, you can't go wrong with Christopher Nolan, can you? So number 8 is going to be Oppenheimer. I need to ask this question. When did Christopher Nolan become a bona fide blockbuster movie maker? I mean, you take a look at his films prior to The Dark Knight. Batman Begins didn't make that much money. You had The Prestige, you had Insomnia, Memento. Those were all good films, but they weren't huge blockbusters. The Dark Knight just lifted him up higher than ever before, and higher than I think he'll ever truly get again. Not saying he's a bad filmmaker. He's a phenomenal filmmaker, but it's just crazy to me to think that he's now in the conversation of the likes of, you know, Spielberg and Cameron and such because of The Dark Knight. It was The Dark Knight that did it. So, I mean, besides that, Oppenheimer looks amazing. The cast is phenomenal. I mean, it's like everybody in Hollywood decided to work on this film. And it's about time that Cillian Murphy, he's really going to get, I think, a lot of recognition in this film because it sounds like he's going to be the guy in this movie. So if that's the case, I really do hope that it works out for him. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the fact that they simulated a real atomic bomb without CGI is just baffling to me. But it's Christopher Nolan and it's one of his films, so that's what we get. Next up at number 7, I am so excited about this movie, probably more now than I was before because of the trailer, and that's the Super Mario Brothers movie. Look, people are going to sit there and complain about Chris Pratt for some reason or another, whether it's his voice, whether it's his religious beliefs, what have you. There's going to be those people out there. You put that aside, this movie looks phenomenal. I mean, from the design of the characters, the way they move, the way they built the world for the film, this looks absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to go and take my kids to see this movie. Number 6. This one here is one of those franchises that I didn't see coming. I actually didn't get into this franchise until the second one released, and it was probably, honestly, I think it was when the second one released on video. So it was some time that I didn't get into this, but Keanu Reeves' comeback is because of this franchise, John Wick. Keanu Reeves is amazing in the role, and these films, what do they call it, Gung Fu or something like that? It is phenomenal what they've done with this. And I heard another podcaster say the other day that it reminds him of Jason Bourne, the Bourne franchise, where it kind of all just fits together as like one movie. You know, the Bourne trilogy, the original Bourne trilogy, when you talk about it, it all just feels like one giant movie. And that's kind of what the John Wick series so far feels like, is you could sit there and think about it, and you mention a scene, I couldn't tell you what movie it's from, but I remember the scene, and I remember what I was feeling and how excited that scene made me. So that series is phenomenal. It's been great from the get-go. I can't wait to see what they have with John Wick 4. Number 5, this is maybe the controversial take of my list, but it's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Granted, James Gunn kind of missed, in my opinion, with Volume 2. It wasn't a bad movie per se, it didn't live up to what the first one was. And if it wasn't for the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special that just came out, I honestly have to say my anticipation for Volume 3 probably would have been a lot lower, and it may have not even made this list. But for how good that Christmas special was, gives me hope that Volume 3 is going to be phenomenal. And I hope it is, because James Gunn deserves a great send-off from the Marvel Cinematic Universe as he fully transitions over to the head of DC Studios, which I can't wait to see what he does there as well. Next up at number 4 is Across the Spider-Verse. The first film, Into the Spider-Verse, was absolutely phenomenal. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It's quite possibly the best Spider-Man movie that we've ever had. It was probably the best movie that came out in, 2019. The movie was great. So, without a doubt, this movie is probably going to be even half as good, and it'll still be fun and enjoyable. And that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I'm hoping for. But besides that, I mean, there's not much to go off of. We don't really know all that's going on. We know that they're expanding the Spider-Man universe and multiverse of sorts. There's hints and excitement that there may be Spider-Man from our favorite cartoons of, the past, or video games and such. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm interested to see what they bring with that movie. Number 3 is actually a really, really fun and exciting one, in my opinion. This movie franchise has been going since, I believe, the early 80s. And I gotta tell you, I mean, when you talk about horror and just the great horror and campiness of horror as well, you can't leave out Sam Raimi and his Evil Dead series. Well, we're getting another film called Evil Dead Rise, and the crazy thing about this is it is a continuation of the original series that Sam Raimi created. That remake that came out by, who was it, Fede Alvarez, I believe, did it? I may be mistaken. Back in, 2014 or 2012 or something? That was a damn good remake. That was a remake done well. I would have loved to have seen that story continued, but I'm okay with seeing the original story continue as well. So Evil Dead Rise, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not a big horror buff, but I have a special place in my heart for the Evil Dead series. I can't wait for this film. Now, these final 2 could possibly be interchangeable, swappable, because they're both franchises have run long courses over the last few decades, and they've each had their ups and downs, but they both get me excited to be a movie fan. They both these series get me in seats in the theater. So number 2, I'm going to go with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Look, for as much as people want to complain about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's still better than Temple of Doom. I don't care what anybody says. Temple of Doom is really just a pile of dog shit. And the fact that there's so many people who sit there and act like Temple of Doom is better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that's ridiculous. Obviously, Crystal Skull is not the best, though. That comes to The Last Crusade, and you can even say Raiders is the best. It's really a toss-up between those two. But come on, we're getting another Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford. And I wouldn't have been so excited for this if I hadn't started watching 1923 and seen that Harrison Ford, he's still got it, man. He's still a damn good actor. And that's what makes me excited about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Not to mention that it's a different take. This is the first time Spielberg isn't behind the camera. James Mangold has done some amazing films in the past. I loved Ford vs. Ferrari. That was a fantastic movie. Logan, great film. So James Mangold's great, and I'm interested to see what he does behind the camera with Indiana Jones. But my number 1, like I said, this could be switched with number 2, but my number 1 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Come on. Tom Cruise is an absolute nutcase right now. The stunts that he's doing, he's an adrenaline junkie, absolutely, but I think he really does do this for the fans, to get the fans excited to get their butts in seats. With how good Top Gun Maverick was, we're moving into this, a franchise that has only gotten better with each installment since the second one. The second one is probably its low point. First one I love, second one's low. Everyone after that, though, has gotten better and better and better. And the fact that this is part 1, part 2 quite possibly could be the end of the franchise. So I am really looking forward to seeing how they raise the bar here, just to see how they raise the bar and quite possibly what will be the final installment of the franchise with Dead Reckoning Part 2. But there you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 plus a few honorable mentions coming out in 2023. Like I said, I want to hear what yours are. I want to know what you guys are looking forward to. I want to know what you think of my top 10. Do you think that I'm an idiot? Do you think it's ridiculous? Do you think the list sucks? Let me know in the comments. With all that said, guys, hit the like button, hit subscribe, follow, share, all that jazz. And I'll talk to all of you later.